Topic today is feminism ready for a new ism. As we know today, there are many isms. You have a white feminism, black feminism, you have Marxist feminism, liberal feminism, and so the question is feminism ready for a new ism? And to answer that question, I would like to jump into talking about one part that feminism actually have highlighted for us in the past 10 years, and that is gender-based violence or men's violence against women. To visualize that, I will give you some figures to understand how big this is. According to United Nations, 35% of all women worldwide have been subject to gender-based violence within the domestic, within the homes. And on a national level, in many countries, that figure goes up to 70% or even more. All along, the perpetrators are always men. To give you another example of that, there is an organization in Sweden that have created a program that's called Machofabriken. It's a material to enlighten men about gender-based violence and other types of destructive masculinities. And according to Machofabriken, in 2001, there were as many women that were murdered by their male partners as in the September 11 attacks. Now we're talking about the terrorist attack in America that actually shook the whole world. So how many of you have heard of the same figure? I presume none of you. And what happens after that, U.S. actually declared war on terrorism. And now we know the result of that. There is a lot of hunting for terrorists. But did anybody declare war on men or men's violence against women? Well, nothing that I have seen so far. And so we should ask ourselves a question. Aren't the victims of domestic violence as important as victims of terrorism? So since we are in Sweden, let's take a look at the figures in Sweden. So in 2013, the Swedish Crime Prevention Authority did a survey that showed more than 27,000 cases of violence against women that were over 18 years of age. And in 85% of all the cases, the perpetrators were men. We can see that this actually is a very high percentage in the country of Sweden that is actually a modern Western country. So does men's violence only affect women? No. We can see actually in the same survey that there were over 35,000 cases of violence against men reported, men over 18 years of age. And 82% of that, and in the same survey, showed that actually there were men were the perpetrators. So we can see actually that men's violence in society doesn't only affect women, but also affects us men. What do we do with this? And what can we do about this? Is there a cure for this disease? I mean, this should be a disease on society that men are overrepresented in all the figures regarding men's violence in society towards women and also towards other men. Are men ready to stand against the violence? Can men do something about it? Well, actually not according to Swedish white feminists that recently came out with an article in a Swedish newspaper, Aftonbladet, where they claimed that men are not ready to take a stand against men's violence against women. Why? Because men are the core of patriarchal society. They are the ones that having the power. They are the part of the norm. That's why they are actually not taking the step to stand against violence towards women. Well, according to me, that's not true. For us, I think it's very important that we as men, if we are actually in majority, we've been pointing out as the perpetrators in the majority of these cases, more than 80%, then we should be actually part of the solution, because I'm also a man and I need to take responsibility for this problem in society. However, if I'm going to do that, then we need to find a solution. We need to find a way to do it. And one way to do it is actually to be a part of feminism. But the question is, can a man be part owner of the feminist cause? And here is where it all goes wrong. Because according to white middle-class academic feminists of today, men can't be owner of the feminist struggle and the feminist cause. They can be a part of it by standing on the side and behind the women leading it, but they never can be a part of owning it. So when I ask the question, why can't we be a part of the ownership of the feminist cause? Then the answer is, there are many answers given. One answer is a comparison to the anti-racist movement. In the anti-racist movement, white people cannot own the cause. Why? Because white people are the norm in society. They are in all the positions in society that creates a hierarchy where they are on top, and they are actually a part of creating the discrimination towards non-white people. This explanation for me, it doesn't go all the way. Why? Because people of non-white color, they are not a part of reproducing racism, nor they cannot get any benefits by reproducing and recreating and racism, and also upholding the racial imbalance in society. When it comes to patriarchy, there are actually women being part of reproducing patriarchy, and also in some societies, in some situations, women can gain a lot by maintaining and reproducing patriarchy. Visualize that. I have a model to show you. Some years ago, when I studied feminism, about 10 years ago at the university, I noticed pretty quickly that most of the studies we did, it was from a white middle class perspective, and that women were actually the norm during the studies, and we as men, the few men who actually were participating in the studies, in the class, whatever we wanted to say something, if there was something that we didn't agree with, we got actually verbally abused, because sometimes we didn't express ourselves in a correct way, or also sometimes we were way out of line, we didn't understood the theories. However, when we wanted to understand the theories and question some parts of the theories, we didn't get any clear answers. One of the questions I had, it was this. The Swedish Western feminist triangle, you have it in the society, like if the triangle is representative for all the society, as a hierarchical structure, then you have men on top, women in the middle, and children on the bottom of the triangle. And for me, I didn't recognize myself in this triangle, and I asked, well, where about everybody else in the triangle, and what is the symbol of the triangle? Explain it for me more. And after many discussions and hours and hours and hours of struggling, my teachers and I didn't get through to my teachers or to my student colleagues. And then one of my teachers said, well, if you think that you know something better than us, then why don't you create your own model? So I did. Here you have Alán's triangle. So for me, the triangle represents the family, the households, and everything outside the triangle represents the society, the outdoor society, the whole spectra on the planet, actually. So the way I see it, the father comes outside the triangle on top. Why? Because he is the breadwinner of the family, so you have to have access to the outside world in order to have access to job market, to education, etc. So he can be the ultimate breadwinner. And the original triangle, the sons come directly after the fathers, because they're the ones that are supposed to be, it's like expected for them to be the next generation of patriarchs, the next generation of breadwinners. That's why they have to be outside, and they have to also have access to all that are giving outside the triangle. And in this matter, you can see also in some countries, actually the little boys as small as 5, 6, 10 years old, they are outside the whole household and they are working, they are polishing shoes, selling chewing gums, etc. to provide the family. And so on the third level, then you have the mother. And as you see, the mother is in the center of the triangle because she is actually the owner of the household. She is the owner of everything that is happening inside of the walls. By marital contract, she's obliged to be a support for her husband mentally, sexually, and socially. And also she have to also provide everybody with hot meal and warm and clean clothes and so on. And here where patriarchy actually gets reproduced by the mother, because it's also in her area that she has to bring up the sons to become the best and strongest patriarchs, the best sons that really good men. When a good man in this matter is he has to be outside, he has to be work, and he has to be in charge. And in that way, the stronger the boys are getting, the stronger sons she have, the more power she gains, because through her son, she gets access to the economical situation of the family. She gains that access. And therefore, for her, it's very important to keep the sons close to her and also to bring up to be as strong as possible. Now, I often ask a question from the audience, how many of you guys here are mama's boys? And I see a few hands raising up. And this is how our mothers are actually bringing us up, regardless where we are born. And in some societies, it's more and less in others. Under the mothers, you have the children. And here it's important to explain, if you take the triangle and point it, put it upside down, which means the further up in the triangle you come, the wider your freedom is. The further down in the triangle you come, the less of movement you have. Your freedom is very much limited. So the children comes actually above the teenage girls. Why? Because the children are still children, they are innocent, they can go off, they can play, and if they happen to do something wrong, then we cannot blame them because they are children. However, if the girls in the teenage years, when they reach puberty and their body started to change from small girls to becoming women with the feminine shapes and so on, they're being sexualized by the opposite gender. Number one. Number two, they can be subject to sexual harassment and also sexual violence. And second of all, for themselves, they can also, when they reach this age, they also get sexualized and they feel sexuality and they find lust and so on. Therefore, it's very important to keep the girls inside the triangle, because if they would go outside the triangle and they will meet a man, or there will be a reputation that they had met a man, then their reputation would be ruined and their virginity would be questioned. And if their virginity would be questioned, then the mother's role as a upbringer would be questioned. Then she would be a bad mother. Therefore, it's very important for her to maintain the girls within the triangle, within the patriarchal structure and the patriarchal view of how a woman, how like a good girl should be. It should be clean, should be virgin, and so on. So the mother, she's reproducing this view within the patriarchal structure. And in this matter, the better the girls are, the better mother she is. The stronger the sons are, the better mother she is. And also what she also is doing for the sons, she has to find them submissive wives so they can marry to these women, so that mother can also have control of their households, which means she gains even more economical power in this structure. So she becomes a matriarch within the patriarchal triangle. So what do we do with this? Is this good? Can we do something about it? Well, of course we can. We need to change this. And how can we change it? Well, one thing that we can change this in one way, this is because both men and women are a part of this structure. So we need to bring in the men. Men can actually change this. Why can men change this? Because the men demands all this from the women. So men can be and should be a part. Anyway, that is my view. If we ask feminists, how can we change this? The main answer mostly would be feminism alone, because feminism and feminist movement can change this. Of course it can do it. But what is the cure? Because we know the more we enlighten women about their rights, the more laws we change, because we can do all that, then the numbers of violence and other things just increases. We just, we see the hidden numbers more and more and more. So the violence, it doesn't decrease. And so it means, in my view, that feminism alone is not enough actually to change this problem. What we do actually, we need to take the men in. We need to talk to men. We need to get men, and we need to empower men and enlighten men to give them the proper knowledge on how this actually affects us all. If you remember, if we go to the beginning of my presentation, we could see that men's violence against men was actually higher than against women, which means the patriarchal structure and the demands for a man to be in a role of like a macho man, a real man, how to act, is actually limiting us as men. Things are demanded of us that we maybe don't want to apply by, but we do it. Why? Because this is just how men should be. Because if you don't do it, then I'm here a man if I apply to all these rules. But if I don't want to follow these rules, I lose in somehow my masculinity and my manhood. I'll lose it. But how can I do that and at the same time maintain my masculinity? One way to do it is to enlighten men, and that we men all together, we should do it. It's actually to point out for men that we are in the center of maintaining this type of structure. One way that we do it is how we actually limiting our loved ones. If we have women surrounding us, a mother, a sister, a girlfriend, a wife, we always advise them to not to walk in a dark park, not to walk in a dark alley, not late at night. So when you go home, you have to call someone, and we're always, afraid. Always when a woman walks outside, sometimes it's better if a man goes with her, just walk with her to her car and so on. And to think about it, actually, why do we do that? And when I ask men I work with, why do we do that? And mostly the answer is like, we do that because of other men. You know how men are. So how are men? Well, men are dangerous. Men are sexual predators. And so if they are that way, how are we? Aren't we men? Aren't we a part of all men collectively? Well, nah, not really, because we are kind of a good man. But if I go ask the men over there, they would point at us and say like, yeah, we know you have to be careful for those others men, you know. So this points out very easily, like, we are actually taking a part and we're limiting women's freedom because we're afraid of other men. We are actually afraid of ourselves. We're afraid of what we are capable of doing. Some stuff that we don't want to do, but we are still doing it because it's a collective thing among men. One way to change this is to enlighten men and to make men to take care of this issue. And I will give you a fresh example on how this is actually working, how men, if men would be a part owner of this cause, how they could change it. And I will give you an example from Iran, Iranian men. Now you would think like, wow, Iranian men? I mean, isn't Iran like the typical role model for patriarchy? How the Iranian men are abusing women and say, by law, they can't do that. When you get married in Iran or in many other countries similar to Iran, by law you gain as a husband all the rights of your wife, which means for her right to travel, her right to work, her right to have a divorce. And so in one case recently that happened, Iranian woman wanted to travel, but her husband didn't allow her to travel. This created a very big reaction. And so the feminist movement went out and asked men to give back that particular right. So they enlightened men that within the marital contract, they have all these rights over their wives. What happened was actually much bigger than any feminist movement have ever gained in this matter. All men, when they understood finally how much power they have over their wives that they should be equal to. So what they did, they started a bigger campaign that they participated in, and you can find this on BBC or in social media, and they put up that how they are actually, by law, giving back their wives, the rights to their wives. Not only the right to travel, but also the right to get a divorce, the right to work, all the freedoms that is actually hers. So I will read 3 quotes from 3 of all these men that are taking this step every day. One of the men said, to begin with, this is actually not my right at all, so I don't own this. Another man says, I'm not an owner, but a partner of my wife. A third one says, I'm actually ashamed as a human being to be in control of these rights because they are not mine to begin with, and it shouldn't be this way. So this shows very, very clearly how easy we as men, if we can organize ourselves and if we can be allowed to take part and to ownership in the feminist cause, we can do changes. Finally, if feminists believe in us men and in our ability to make changes, that we together should take a step forward, not as the demands are today, that feminist demands from us men to take a step back in order to let women to take a step forward, because women don't need us men to step down for them to gain higher ground. Women are doing it anyway. What we need together, men and women, stand hand in hand and take a step forward to reach gender equality. And if feminism is ready to take this challenge, then we can add a new ISM.